if you treat people well, they remember that. And then they think, oh, you know what? I know somebody. And they, refer you along. And in fact, when I did my Midwest clinic, we talked about how we started focusing on our low end kids and really just focusing on the perspective of the kids and the needs of the kids, how our program exploded and our opportunities have exploded. And it almost seems counterintuitive to, instead of cracking the whip and driving from the top, when we kind of reversed that and started driving up from the bottom, things have really just come into their own for the program and for the things we've been able to do.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Band, a podcast that features conversations with composers, conductors, and performers of music for winds and percussion. My name is Mark Connor. I'm a composer and educator, and each week I have the great fortune to speak with and share the stories and wisdom of musicians and leaders in the band community. The Everything Band podcast is a proud member of the Music Teachers Development Podcast Network. The Muted Network provides support in the form of audio on-demand programming designed by and for music educators. You can find more information about our network at mutedpodcasts.com. Before we begin, I'd like to thank all of you for listening. I really appreciate your time and hope that you are finding value from these interviews. I rely on word of mouth and social media to bring the show to new listeners. If you think you know one or two people who might find these interviews useful, please let them know about it. You can also help by following me and sharing posts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Remember, help your students live up to the best that is in them through music. And now, on to my next guest, Rachel Maxwell. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
Welcome to the Everything Band.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually a fangirl of your show.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love it. I was pretty excited because I'm a runner who's trying to get back into running, and I listen to podcasts when I exercise, and you're on my playlist, just so you know that.
Well, I'm honored.
Yeah, well, don't get too excited because there's a lot of agony involved, but you get me through it, so I appreciate that.
I had someone at Midwest approach me and tell me that they always listen to me while they're working out. And so they attribute the Everything Band to their weight loss. And so, see, I'm just serving the community in every way I can.
That's awesome. I'm just burning the rage ball as when I run around the block. But again, I'm thinking of you. So however you want to take that.
Well, I appreciate it. So, Rachel, can you introduce yourself for the listeners and tell them what you're doing now?
As you said, Rachel Maxwell. I live in Oswego, Illinois, and I teach at Traughber Junior High School in Oswego. And we actually just became townies last April. This is my 26th year teaching, 24th year at Traughber. And we've commuted for 24 years from about 40 minutes away. And this year we decided it was time to really invest, time to become part of the community. And we're pretty excited because I have an older son in college, but my daughter was entering fifth grade. And we kind of thought, where do we want her? And we decided we wanted her here with us. My husband teaches private lessons for our school, so he's part of our band program as well. And we talked to her, and she wanted to be part of our program. And so we made the move. We made the jump. And so I've been here for 24 years at Traughber. And the interesting thing is this is we believe the 85th year of the Traughber band program.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I was actually doing some research and I realized, and I inherited the program from Margene Pappas in 95 when I came over here from West Aurora, and she had been here since 69. And before her, Reeve Thompson started the program, we believe, in 34. He started the Oswego program. It evolved into the Traughber band and the high school band. And then in the late 70s, they opened up their second middle school at that point. So we're pretty excited that basically 3 directors in 85 years. So it's definitely a band town and a band culture. So I've been very blessed to inherit that from Margene and sort of try to continue the legacy and continue what was passed on to me, a historical program, really.
Yeah, and so when I look at the map of Oswego, you're kind of in the far western suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah, people usually know Naperville and sometimes Plainfield, and we're just to the left. When I got here, we were still a little farm town, like 6,000 people in the town. maybe the same number of kids we were drawing from several communities in the area. And now the town's about 36,000 and we have 20,000 students in our district. We went from 3 buildings. I think we have about 20 now. And at the time, there was 3 band directors when I came in, and we all team taught the high school and the 2 middle schools. And now there's, 7 middle school directors and 4 high school directors. So it's been interesting to see that development happen. It's definitely changed. We were a farm town when I got here, and now it's there's still a little bit of that happening of the towny thing, but it's a suburban sprawl.
Yeah,
it's changed quite a bit.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, how you've watched that evolution. Has it changed the way you've taught there?
Well, when I was very lucky because I inherited kids that had been a part of Mrs. Pappas's program. Their families had been a part of that program. There was a really strong sense of band community and band history. And my lucky part was when I got hired in 95, she then transferred to the high school for her remaining about 10 years of her career. And so I really tried to follow her guidance and her suggestions of how things were done, continuity of just the culture, of expectation of what kind of tests we did, how we did recruiting, how we did instruments. And that saved my skin, because when you go in, you think, I'm going to invent the wheel because I am the new band director. And she allowed me to have my own ideas, but at the same time, carry on what she had done. So there wasn't that pushback a new director sometimes gets. I mean, there's plenty of pushback because you're new and you're green, but just having her legacy and her backing was tremendous. And we had good numbers. We had good percentages at the time, but as our population's gone up, the program has really exploded. It's huge. And, that has its own strengths and challenges. We have a building of about 1,000 kids now for Traughber, and we have 420 kids in band. And
wow.
Yeah. And there's 2 of us, 2 full-time directors. And we're very lucky. We've gotten several really good student teachers, and we tell them right up front, we're going to treat it like you're an intern. You're just jumping in with your deep end. So it's a big program, and people think, well, that's so great. And it is, we're so grateful for it, but it still has challenges. It still has things we have to figure out because that's a lot of kids to manage and to help move along and find their way and meet their needs. So.
Yeah. So what are the moving parts like for a program that big? I mean, how much time are you spending in the classroom versus doing administrative work and kind of overseeing everything?
Well, I'm really fortunate. My colleague is an administration beast. So we dive in and take care of things really quickly and really efficiently. So that I am blessed. We have 9 class periods in the day. 7 of them, we are teaching band. So we have 7 band classes a day. And they range in anywhere from about 40 kids to a class to 80 kids in a class. So we are team teaching every period. And we're very lucky in that our administration is very helpful in scheduling and splitting the kids in a way that we think will be the most efficient. Now, where they put us in the day or how, what period goes where, I don't care. They can put us wherever it works for them so that they make the schedule work. But we start our own beginners in 6th grade at the middle school level in Oswego, and we've done that since I started. And that's really modeled after the Texas system. And I was pretty freaked out by that when I came on board because I had taught 2 years of elementary band in the traditional Midwest style where you pull kids out a couple times a week, and then you might have a group lesson once a week kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That's my model where I am.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. And I had no idea how I was going to be teaching all the brass beginners in one class at one time. It just really blew my mind. But once I experienced it and did it for a little bit, I joke all the time, I'm going to go work at Target before I'm going to go back to doing pullouts, because we've done the large beginner classes now for 26 years and had a lot of success with it. And we really like it because we see the kids every day. We see them for 41 minutes. We have let me just kind of give you the structure. What we do is we do a school, like before school starts, we do a 4-week band camp, like a band boot camp for our new kids who are coming into 6th grade. And they are scheduled into a like instrument class, a homogeneous class. So they'll meet for an hour for 16 sessions, 4 weeks before school starts, for an hour of clarinet, flute, alto, etc. And that happens at each middle school, each junior high school, for the 4 weeks prior to summer. And the directors teach it. And we're paid through our summer school. The kids enroll like summer school enrichment class, and they do pay for it. And we're, we kind of handle how we schedule that, and we get the kids enrolled. And we have probably 95 to 98% participation in that program. The few kids that don't do it, when they come on board and start school, we just partner them up with the kids who just were rock stars in summer band and go back and retrace our steps, review everything, so that, the kids who fell through the cracks or the kids who couldn't attend summer band have a quick review. And we probably spend about 2 weeks once school starts just reviewing what we did in summer band. But just getting that fundamental month down of a clarinet class or a cornet class is tremendous, because we can do all the things you do in a pullout, but we're seeing the kids every single day, an hour, and the fundamentals are ingrained really intensely during that month. So when they start school, they know how to produce a characteristic sound. They know about reeds. They know about embouchure. They're all holding their instruments correctly. They all have good posture, good breath control. We don't get too worked up about how far we go in the book. We sort of have our marker in the book of what we want to get to, like hot cross buns or whatever it might be. We kind of want to get there. But our biggest thing is that kids understand how to produce a tone, understand instrument maintenance and care. Their fundamental reading elements are in place, just the very basics, and they can do a lot of call and response. So when school starts, when I have, say, all the brass kids in one period, it's not a complete disaster.
Sure.
It would be if I was starting them from scratch. They have some foundations in place. And then when we go and review, they're pretty strong. So we do those 4 weeks. And then when school starts, my schedule actually has our clarinet class and beginner percussion class are partnered at the same time. So my teaching partner takes the percussion, and then I do the class of clarinets, which is dreamland. It's like Disneyland of beginning band.
Yep.
But I will mention it's 50 clarinets.
That's a lot of squeak potential right there.
Right. But since they've had a month of clarinet class where they're divided into 2 classes, it's pretty solid, and we review everything, and there's some squeaks and such, but we move along pretty quick. And likewise with the percussion, they're off in their own class then. And then on Fridays, we make it fun, like, hey, it's full band day, meaning the clarinets and the percussion are together, and they get a kick out of that and think that's a big deal and it's fun. And we review what we've done for the week. And then we have a beginning brass class. Now that's all the brass at once. And that's a difficult class. That's this year it's 75 kids, and it's all our brass. And my teaching partner is a trumpet player, so she will take the trumpets out, and then I will keep everybody else we have a second rehearsal area. We're very lucky. We commandeered a PE storage room, which has become the world's greatest second band room. And she takes them out, and then I'll keep the low brass. And it's still big. She's got 39 trumpets out with her. And then I've got 40 trombones and baritones with me. But divvying it up like that, and then we strategically seat the kids, strong week kind of thing. So, the student, we do tons of, turn and talk to your neighbor, help the kid next to you, model for the kid next to you, who can take turns. So those weaker kids are getting pulled along and helped and assisted. And if they never take their horn home, I'm not thrilled, but I see them 5 days a week for over 40, it's like 41 minutes, depending on the class grade, 42 for some. We can get a lot done, and they can make a lot of progress, even if they're not, even if the horn is it's an orphan horn and it's never gone home once, that kid can still play their instrument at a pretty solid level. And then that leaves our 6th grade woodwind class, where we have the flutes, saxes, and oboes together in one group. And they meet in a class, and there's about 40 kids in that group. And again, we just divvy up. I'll take the saxes, you take the high woodwinds, or you keep all the kids that are getting it. I'll take all the kids that need extra help.
Right.
And we just divide and conquer.
So I'm sorry. I was going to say that really is the Texas model.
It is. And our beginning band is about 180 kids total. And we divide them in half alphabetically. And we're yellow and black, and a panther is the Traughber thing. So we have the gold band and the panther band split alphabetically. They do this, we all rehearse together, but when it comes time for concerts, we split them up and do some morning bands where, gold on the stage, panthers in the band room, where they can experience being with the other instruments. And same music for both groups, same teaching for both groups. It's just a divide you in half so that it's not a monster Godzilla band on stage, destroying cities and souls as it traipses through all of our grade 1 music. So, and it's a much more manageable and musical experience with, the 80 kids on stage than the 160, as you can imagine. And sometimes we'll mix it up, and it's so convenient because and we have this all the time, Gold's on Tuesday night, Panthers are on Thursday night's concert. We always do 2 concerts. And somebody has a hockey tournament on that Thursday night. Their mom calls and says, this time, can we switch them over so that they can not miss the hockey tournament? And it's worked out really well. So if somebody does happen to have that one conflict, or if somebody is ill, we say, you know what, pop in with the other 6th grade band and come the other night, make it work. So, because I think what's the end game, that the parents adhere to my schedule or that the kid gets to play a concert. And having the 2 bands and the 2 different nights has really helped us just make sure everyone can do the club sport or do the 4-H or, whatever it is they're doing, and still make one of those band concerts work if they need to switch around a little bit, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then from there, then we have about 130 kids this year in our 7th grade band, 135 maybe. And we split them. There's a band period of 7th grade woodwinds and percussion and a 7th grade brass class. And same thing, we team teach those. I do have a percussion guy who comes out 2 days a week and will pull the 7th and 8th grade percussion out for sectionals. And again, those of course are large classes, but we find pedagogically we can get so much more done if I'm just working with woodwinds and say, my colleague can take out, hey, you split out the flutes. I have got to teach these clarinets, these pinky fingerings, or whatever the case may be. And then we just try to be consistent enough that when we pop them back together in a full band setting, they know what's going on. It doesn't freak them out to hear the other parts. I'm singing or playing the other parts on my instruments or secondary instruments, and I'll be like, okay, this is happening. These are the trumpets. They're with you, and they know who they play with. So it's worked really well for us. And then, in fact, my 8th grade this year is 120. So they're split the same way. Woodwind and percussion one period, brass in another period. And one, like Friday mornings before concert, we will put them together to make sure that they can put everything together. So it's 7 band periods a day, and it's a lot of band because people are like, can we come observe or hang out, or what's your schedule like? I'm like, it's band all day, so come anytime and see some band. And it's just, a wave of kids in and out, in and out, in and out. And that's our challenge, is how do we get to know these kids, or personalize instruction, or catch the ones that are falling through the crack. And that's the hard part. And we've tried to be proactive on that and creative. And lots of times my colleague's fantastic with kids on the one-on-one or small groups. So we'll be like, all right, on Friday, catch all the stragglers who haven't turned in a playing test, and I'll keep everybody together. And you pull out that little group and get them tested. Or, we just divvy up the work as the need arises, is really how it works. So there's no set stone, like you have the flutes and I have the clarinet. It's what does a kid need? And then that's how we divide things up, really.
You mentioned that. We talked a little bit before I started to record, and you mentioned that your Midwest presentation was on a sort of this topic about how to bring up the band.
Yeah, and that's, it was really interesting. About 5 years ago, we had a student, and we've always included everybody. We've always been grade level based, not ability based. And I have had little honor bands that we create where they meet in the morning. It's a special group you try out for all district band that meets on a consistent basis. And I've just found that they don't play necessarily better than my grade level bands. They're just different. They're smaller, maybe slightly grade level harder, but nothing that it was so much better that I never felt like if I don't, have that or don't have that as something we offer, kids would be missing out, or I'll be missing out on a musical experience. So we don't have it right now because we're just a little overwhelmed with our numbers of kids that we do have. So we don't really have any extracurricular concert ensembles. We have a jazz band, of course, and a little percussion ensemble. But I just found that, if I just apply the same expectations that I would have for, say, a wind ensemble to my everyday band, they can get there. They can come along much further than most people expect them to. And as I was saying, about 5 years ago, we had a particular student who plays at the high school now very successfully, and she has MS. She has an aide with her because she has micro seizures throughout the day that can last from anywhere from a split second to a minute. And she doesn't collapse or anything. We've been trained in how to handle a full seizure, but it's almost like she is just away for a while and she's just sitting still, and has an IQ in a range where she does get a lot of assistance as part of the special ed program. And when she started band, they pretty much, her parents didn't know if she could do this. Her special ed team was very skeptical on if this was should she even try this? And we're like, yeah, give it a try. I mean, let's try it. Why not? Everyone should try it. And she actually got in private lessons right away, which was really helpful. And by her 8th grade year, she was playing first parts, earned the spot to play first parts legitimately. And, it just made me really reset my thinking that if this child, who every bit of, cognitive ability, IQ level, such, is telling me it's going to be too much for her. And she exceeded our expectations on sheer effort, willpower, work ethic, determination, the desire to do it. And that just made me think, well, what are the rest of us doing who are working with full capacity and no, extra things we have to get through, or no supports we need, or even the students I have who, even an average student or even a lazy student, I've really changed my thinking to, guys, it's 100% work ethic, and I've had a handful of what I would consider talented students, and those are kids who are just so innately musically genius, on some weird DNA is woven into them that they would be musicians no matter who or where they're exposed to. I've had a handful of those, but every other kid who's been successful have just done it through grit, just worked and decided, you know what, I'm going to do this till I get it right. And when I had that one student several years ago, it became so real to us. And her parents were just, I would go to IEP meetings and talk with and the whole team would be talking about her struggles. And I'd be like, well, in band, she is playing first part and she contributes at a really amazingly high level. And she makes very, perceptive comments about what's happening musically around her. And it just gave her parents and her such a boost of, you know what, all of this is possible, because it's possible in one place. It is possible everywhere. And it really kicked me in the butt as far as I need to make it an environment and I need to make it a place where every child can succeed. And my job is to figure out what formula of supports they need to get there. And since then, things have exploded. Our program was around 300 kids for a long time. And when we shifted gears and just started thinking, how do we keep every kid? How do we get every kid to be successful? How do we get the kid who doesn't ever do any work? How are we going to help them? Well, if that means I have to go and get that kid out of lunch and say, come on, you're going to go play your tests with me and I'll play along with you, then that's what I'll do. Or if I have to, say, hey, you're going to come in during homeroom tomorrow and sit down with me, and we're going to go through this little theory test together to make sure you understand it, then that's what we'll do. And some kids are ready to be on their own and not be chased down for grades, and others aren't. And I just feel like that's what my job is. The good kids, the strong kids, the really accelerated kids, they could do it without me. I really earned my keep as a teacher with the kids that need us, that couldn't do it, that would probably quit or want to drop. And if we can keep them, then, what have we offered that child that they would have missed out on? Because certainly those kids aren't necessarily going to be part of a winning team in a lot of other situations. They might never, ever be a part of an ensemble or a group of peers that is successful at any other part in their lives once they start getting tracked at high school. So, I feel morally it's my obligation to provide them an experience of excellence where they contribute.
I love that you have this quote on the top of the Traughber band page. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit.
Well, that's Aristotle. And, I saw that when I first, I don't know if I was student teaching or what, but I thought that is the secret. And I'm a drum corps kid. And, I was in Phantom Regiment for several years. And it was one of the most formative experiences of my life, because they took a lot of people who were we had some people who were exceptional skill level, obviously. And at the time it was, back in the 80s and 90s, it was very hometown. They took so many people that were just very, very average skill level, but instilled this work ethic in them and this habit and this desire for excellence in them that I watched that just come and evolve around me, and experience just the pride and the power and the strength that comes with doing something well and doing it from your own work ethic, from your own desire, from your own habits, from your own repetition of growth. The strength that gives you as a human, and it allows you then to turn around and share the best of yourself with the world. And almost all those kids I marched with, a lot of them were not exceptional musicians, but they have turned out to be exceptional humans because they experienced something that was just greater than all of us and really pushed them past what they thought they were capable of. And it really applied to every level of their lives. So when I came out of drum corps, I was a big fan of, grit before it was an edu-speak term that's so popular now. And I started using that. And then a person who I admire greatly, Chip Staley over in Indian Prairie, which is a neighboring district, had that on several of his things at his school. And they had tremendous success and experience. And I thought, I'm going to stick with that because it just is something that I've had on all of our logos and signage and everything in our room since I started teaching. And, it's so simple and it's the root of everything. It really is.
Well, I love it because, we achieve success not by shooting at the end goal. We achieve success by taking small steps every day to get there.
Yes.
I like that idea because it makes it manageable. It's not like we're going to pick up an instrument and we're going to be excellent immediately. It's if we do this every day, we're going to achieve great things.
Right. And when and my kids say, I can't, I say, yet.
Yeah.
Yet. And, one of my favorite slides when we were at the Midwest in December is it said, I saw it, on Facebook, of course, and grabbed it and used it. It just said, a child will fall down 50 times learning to walk, but that kid never stops and says, maybe walking's not for me. And I thought, but we do that all the time. By the time kids are in upper grade school, middle school, certainly high school, you fail at something a couple times and you're like, oh, that's not for me. I want to be the person who pushes and helps and supports that kid and that they do it the 51st time and they finally do it. And maybe it's gross and horrible, but once they do it and they grab that and they feel that, they start getting hungry for having that again. And, I've just actually been talking to my 8th graders about it this week, because little 8th grade, I just set in early with them, and they're a tremendous group of kids. But I said, we are going to butt heads, because I'm going to expect more than you expect of yourselves, more than feels okay to do right now. And if you got, and that's okay if we butt heads. Sometimes I'm going to feel bad, sometimes you're going to feel bad, but I, for the moment, because it's not the easy way, but I'm going to take you there step by step by step. And I mean, I feel like every single rehearsal, we have to take 1 inch closer. Every rehearsal. I mean, every minute of every rehearsal, we're busting butt and grind, like the White Sox. We're White Sox people at my house. We're not thrilled the last decade with what's going on, but they're grinders, and when they were successful, they weren't flashy team. And I kind of feel like that about my kids. Like, I don't have a ton of flashy players. I don't have a ton of kids who are freaky rock stars. They will go on and become that eventually. We send lots and lots of successful kids on. But I do have a room of kids who understand how to grind every day, and we got to get one more measure better, one more phrase better, one more thing we're going to fix a little better. And we do that with 6th, 7th, 8th graders. I mean, there is never a loaf day. There is never a kickback day in our room. It's just not in our culture in any way, I guess.
I ask my 4th graders almost every day, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
That's perfect. Exactly. And I constantly am trying, especially to my 6th graders, say, guys, can you believe we sound this good? 2 weeks ago, you were freaking out. And they all go, yeah, I said, or a month ago, you guys were like, all say, I can't do this, freaking out. I said, well, we chipped away at note by note, and now you can do it. And just that strength that gives kids to be proud of something that no one can take that away from them. They're so thin if, focused now, their phone and their things and their texting. And, playing an instrument is the same as it was 200 years ago. It's a craft. It's something that they have to create every sound. They have to create every moment from their own skill. There's very few things we do anymore that you can't push a button and have happen. And this is one of them.
Yep.
And I always say to kids, once you have that strength inside of you from achieving something that you had to do, no one can ever take that away from you. That's part of your soul, of who you are. That's part of what you are as a human being. And when you're strong, you can be strong for other people. You can take the good parts of yourself and you can send that out to the world, and you can face fear. You can face failure. You can face those things and know, you know what? I've got enough strength in me and enough skill and enough perseverance and enough grit that I could get through that. It might be scary, but I can do it. I did a solo in 6th grade and I was scared out of my mind, but I survived, that kind of, and we do make all our kids do a solo. We have a solo recital where every single kid participates. They all lose their minds at first, but afterwards I say, now you can do other things that seem scary. You can get up and give a speech. You can run a meeting. You can put together a proposal. You can face a PhD, if you have to defend your thesis, you can do that because you've done other things that are scary. So I think that's really where it comes down. Is I'm not trying to create world-class musicians, although we do at times, but hopefully kids who are just strong, are just, can go out and face things that are scary.
Yeah, I have a couple things I've been thinking about as you're talking. I don't know, you said you're a fan of the show. Did you listen to my interview with Sister Gail Buckman?
I have not.
Sister Gail has been teaching in St. Louis in the Catholic schools for 50 years. She started in 1968.
Wow, that's impressive.
And I asked her, so what's changed over the years? And she, she said, no, not really much, technology. And she said something to me that was really interesting. She said, today we have these helicopter and lawnmower parents. and many of them didn't play an instrument. And so the one thing that I can give these students that their parents can't help them with is the instrument. And the kids learn independence because their parents can't do it for them. And I loved that.
That is good, because I do have parents who will contact me and say, I don't know how to help them. They're stressing out about this playing test or that, or what do I do? And we will actually kind of coach parents a little bit on how to help your kid practice. But you can see the kids who have been so used to having their hand held through everything, when they're on their own, initially it scares them. I mean, they're a little overwhelmed, especially our beginners. But by the end of the year, they get pretty savvy on how to handle their own needs, or how to handle, and certainly no 7th and 8th graders parents are calling me saying, my kid's freaking out over the playing test, how do I help them? Because the kids know how to help themselves eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's, that's so powerful for a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about as you were talking about, I taught aural skills and music theory for years.
Okay.
15 years. And, in aural skills, it's amazing how fixed mindset college freshmen and college sophomores can be. When they don't hear something, like you do those harmonic dictations, and we all know, we were all there. They're hard when you're doing it. It's usually a difficult thing for most people, not everybody, of course. And so, but you tell them that, this is your ears, it's a lifelong journey. It's a drop in the bucket, but at the college level, they want to close off. They don't want to take that long view that you were just talking about.
And I will tell you, I'm a French horn player, so everyone always said, oh, you must have great ears. Well, in the right context.
Right.
I had no piano chops growing up. I didn't even start piano till college. So hearing things played on a piano meant very little to me. I really struggled with, what's that cluster of notes I'm hearing mean? Because it meant nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was such a perfectionist and such a pleaser growing up, and even now, that it was a horrible experience for me doing ear training in aural skills.
It's a common musician story. I mean,
just horrible experience. So frightening to me, because it was looking in the mirror at the thing I was the most afraid of and the weakest at. And it's so funny now because, and 30 years later, of course, now a band's going and I'll be like, point to the kid. I'm like, Ruben, be natural. He's like, how do you even know it's me? Or whatever, your ears train to what you need to use them for. And it's so frightening and so overwhelming. So I think about all the time, like, are we teaching theory and ear training in the best way? Because if it's just scares the crap out of kids, we're not getting what they're capable of, really. And I certainly didn't do what I was capable of, because I was so afraid of making a mistake that I was just almost paralyzed when I did it. And so, I understand that completely. And just all the way through college, even, it was probably not even till like 5 years ago that I started being okay with like being bad at things once in a while, because it's just ingrained into you, especially as a musician, that perfection, chasing perfection all the time.
Yeah, and you can't do that when you're in an aural skills class, because I used to tell my students all the time, I'm your aural skills teacher. It's like the greyhounds when we used to race dogs, chasing the little metal rabbit around the track.
Right.
And so the rabbit's always ahead of you.
Yes. And really the best aural skills teachers would be part teacher, part therapist, to just talk people off the ledge.
I did lots of pep talks.
Yeah. I mean, I had a fabulous teacher at ISU, Illinois State University, who he would talk you through it. Like, he'd be like, okay, start with what you know.
Right.
Now let's go to the next step.
Right.
And then what? And he did that with history, and he did it, with ear training, history, all of the things that intimidate kids. And he just was so good at showing me, if you just start with what you know and take one step, it's not as horrifying. And it's not yeah.
Kind of like teaching band.
Well, yeah. I mean, and, my advice to anybody starting, keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Break it down until you can hear what you need to fix, and fix one thing at a time. Because even when I have my great student teachers who are very strong, they're fixing 50 things. And I'm like, I don't remember the last 28 things you said, kids. So the kids certainly aren't remembering. So I try to get them to say one thing, have the kids play that one thing, then move on to the next one thing you need to say. Because, they like things broken down. Kids do, and they like things. They have to experience it, obviously, physically, until it means something to them. They can't understand something in words. It has to be understood in words and through their experience on their horn before it can actually be like have iconic representation in their mind. So that when they look at it, it means something, a feel, a musical sound, etc. And I think lots of people will skip over that step too quickly, and that's where they get in trouble, especially with the little itty bitties. Young guys. So
I love when my youngest students go, "Hey, can we do that again?"
Oh, my heart.
It's the best because they know they didn't do it the way they wanted to, and they want to try again.
That's the best. And they know what they know and don't know. They're really good if we hand the reins over and say, "What do you guys think?" Sometimes they're worse critics than I am. They're harsher than I am on it, but they definitely know. And, it makes it a lot more of a collegial relationship as well when we say to the kids, "What do you guys think? Where are you at on how's it going? Are you a 0 to 5? Where are you at on this? What part do you want to work on?" Then I feel like they understand I'm helping them. I'm not the "don't screw it up, here she comes" kind of person. And eventually, always we have situations where it's like, okay, let's check on how we're doing. Everyone needs a little accountability once in a while. But especially with those beginners, if they understand that I'm just like a walking resource and you tell me what you need, man, I think their development just takes off and they get excited and they own it. And, you see that, I'm sure, with your fourth graders, your little guys, they love that.
So, Rachel, you mentioned Illinois State, and we never really talked about your musical background. So can you tell everyone, what's your instrument?
Well, I'm a French horn player. That's why I'm scratching and muttering to myself in the corner. That's why I'm like slightly, maybe even a little crazy.
I've had a few French horn players on the show. I know.
Yeah, so I used to be a very good horn player. Now I joke that I own a French horn, but I play. I have actually a lot of private students, and I play with them. I'm not in performance shape by any stretch, and I've become quite the trumpet player though and trombone player with my bands. But I grew up actually in Rockford, Illinois, so I was a townie for a Phantom Regiment, and my band director. We started band in 7th grade in Rockford, and most people think, "Oh," but you catch up. You don't know any different, And a 7th grader doing a year of band is a very different thing than a 3rd or 4th grader doing a year of band every day. We caught up really fast. I had a fantastic band director, Martin McDaniel. He was a DCI judge, and I didn't know anything about any of that. I just liked band, and I went in and I wanted to play the flute. For years, I thought, I'm going to be a flute player. I just can't wait to play the flute because it's 1982, and I want to learn how to play The Rose on the flute by Bette Midler. I thought that would be the ultimate musical cool experience for me. So I went in and he held up the French horn and said, "I need 4 of these." And in my brain, they had something. He said, "Flutes are full, but I need 4 French horns." And I'm a horse person as well. We do horses, and that's always been my other thing I love. And so in my mind, somehow French horn went with horses. And so I thought, well, I'll try that. Why not? And by some weird miracle, it worked. And I do tell the kids the story that after my first year of band, I did not sign up for a second year of band because I had to carry my French horn home every day and it banged against my leg. I hadn't quite figured out how to carry it to make it work. And so I didn't sign up. I thought, it was fine, but I don't really want to carry this French horn home every day. This is ridiculous because I did have uphill both ways, that kind of thing. And it's the only time my parents ever intervened and said, no, you need to do this. And they didn't even pressure that hard. They just said, you know what? I really think you should sign up for band next year again. I thought, really? And they're like, yeah, you were really good at it and you liked it. And I thought, okay, good idea. And my mom doesn't even remember saying this to me. They put absolutely no pressure on me to do band. It was just my thing I wanted to do. And thank God my mother told me to sign up again, because every good thing in my life, my friends, my husband, it has come from my relationships with people in band. And so thank goodness my mother stepped in that one time, not a musician herself, but just said, that's weird. You liked that. You should do it again. And so I did. And again and again and again. And now I'm in charge. And so then I went to, when I went to high school, it was I had a very old school traditional band director, which I look back now and crack up. I wish I had appreciated it, because now it would just give me delight to no end. We wore like the funky Winker Bean uniforms. And he wore the cap when he conducted, like that band director hat, and the navy with the brass buttons. We wore those, and we played all transcriptions. Maybe a Korean folk song, maybe a John Barnes chants would get thrown in for something crazy and new, but it was all transcriptions, all the old staple whole, so I came out of high school really knowing the core literature, just because my band director, I knew all this orchestral music, and we had a full orchestra in my high school, which I was very lucky, and I played in that as well. And then I played in Rockford Area Youth Symphony when I was a kid, and that had a huge impact on me, because I just became an orchestra nerd, hardcore that time as a player. And I thought, well, I do band because, it's there at the school, but I'm really going to be an orchestral artist, kind of thing. And then I got involved. I had a bunch of friends who marched in drum corps. I didn't know anything about it, so I went to some practices with them. So I got pulled into that. And then I was really lucky. When I was still in high school, I got to play in the Beloit Janesville Symphony, which was fantastic. I rode there with two viola players who are about 85 years old each, would give me a carpool ride up there for rehearsal and listen to them patter on about all things orchestral. So that was pretty cool. And I had a great horn teacher all the way through high school. I had two really good horn teachers. And then when I went to, I had some friends who were going to go to ISU, and I was pretty sure, I'm just going to follow them. I really had no great ambitions of where I was going to go. But I just remembered this recently, that I told the horn teacher at ISU, 18-year-old me, told them that I had auditioned at University of Wisconsin as well. And they were going to give me quite the scholarship package. And thank God the internet didn't exist, right? So I went to ISU. The
telephone did, though.
Right. Well, if you had picked up a phone, I would have been busted. I don't know why. I don't know how I got away with this. So I went down, I auditioned for Dr. Neisler, Joe Neisler. He was working as doctor at the time from Indiana, and he was a student of Farkas's. So I'm a Farkas grandbaby. And Dr. Steve Steele was the director of bands down there. And they took a big interest in me and gave me a really nice scholarship package, because they're trying to grow the horn studio at the time. And plus I bamboozled them into thinking that there was competition in some capacity. I don't know how I did that.
Made yourself a commodity.
I don't know what my brain was thinking, but I came up with it and it worked. So I went there, and it was a really outstanding experience. Joe Neisler took me under his wing and really took good care of me, taught me so much. The music ed faculty at the time was Deb Sheldon was there. Dr. Steele kicked our butts intensely in at top band. I was with Glenn Block in orchestra, and it was just a really excellent foundation, and big enough to be pushing me, but small enough that I got a ton of attention. I would not have survived. I would not have done well at all if I had gone to somewhere bigger for undergrad, like a U of I. I wasn't ready. I needed, some hands-on. I needed to know my professors. I couldn't be just a number. So that was really good. And I had some great colleagues as far as kids who were at school with me, like Melissa Hines. Dr. Hines was my roommate in college. Kim Ferris was another roommate in college. Matt Chapman, who has a really fabulous program in Central Illinois. Mandy Faye's out in Arizona. She's got a fabulous program. She's won Grammys for her work with production with children's music programs. So we had like just this little core group of people who it was just a really unusual right place, right time kind of thing. And I got a job right away at West Aurora. And that's an old school band program, kind of grew up along with Joliet Central and that, very parallel. And I taught elementary band for 2 years, which is the perfect first job. If anybody's first coming out, I really think people you learn how to teach, you learn your instruments, you learn working with people. It was just perfect. And then my third year, a chance encounter with Margene Pappas at a festival, and she was talking about needing another person. And I was talking to a friend of mine who I knew wanted the job. And she said, well, what about you? I said, I hadn't thought about it. And she said, why don't you come and interview? And once I got over there and interviewed with her, I knew it was really a special program and a really amazing opportunity. And so I've been then in that same job for 26 years now, and I would never leave. I mean, it's the Walt Disney world of band. I mean, we have amazing facility, support, fantastic kids, great administration. It's, we don't, like everybody else, we have things that aren't great, and we have not a ton of money and, all those things. But in the big picture, the support we've received has been tremendous. And I couldn't have been in a place for my career. And I all things going as planned, I will be there for finish out my career in this position, because I have no desire to be at any other level than middle school. When I first came to Oswego, it was team taught. So I did the second band at the high school, and I did marching band, and that was fine. And I enjoyed it, but I'm goofy enough that it's a good fit for the middle school kids. They laugh a little bit at my jokes, where the high school kids just look at me coldly, like, my coffee's getting cold, if you don't mind moving along here. So
I'm sure my listeners have picked up on it by now. I don't interview a lot of high school band directors, but I love my middle school band directors.
We're a chatty crowd, aren't we? Because we don't interact with adults ever. We're desperate. We're desperate to adult interact, tell our story.
Maybe that's what it is.
We mattered.
I've had some fantastic middle school music educators on this show so far. When I look down the list, I'm really proud of it. So
that's awesome, because it takes a special sort of crazy to do this and think we're at the dream job, because, some days I look at the kids and I think, who is running the asylum? I'm looking at this little tiny skinny 12-year-old boys, and they're my colleagues throughout the day. They're who I'm making music with. They're who I'm collaborating with. And I think, well, no wonder I'm losing my mind, because, 1 minute they're flicking each other in the ear, and the next minute we're talking about phrasing. And that to me sounds like a meadow of flowers, and so I'm like, and this week I went over and helped, I listened to one of the high school bands and talked to them about one of their pieces, because they're doing a piece that I had actually commissioned several years ago. And so I went over and talked to them about it. And I came back, and the other directors were like, how was it? I said, they're all like so big and old, and they seemed like poorly groomed 40-year-olds. And it just was very weird to me to be around all these giant humans, when I was like, I like it when the kids are like littler than me or gawkier than me, I've decided.
So you just mentioned that commissions, and I noticed that you've been involved in a lot of commissions. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, I love band literature. That's, I got an administration degree many, many years ago, and I thought I might go that route. And when I really realized I will never again be able to pick literature, and I will only be dealing with discipline issues and people wearing the wrong clothing, I thought I can't do that. I have to stay with band, because picking literature and listening to band music is one of my greatest joys and one of the things I love the most. So several years ago, about 2010, we had some commissions in our district, but Dan Harrison, who's at my sister's school, Thompson, we both feed in the same high school, and he's been here a long time as well. We had a scholarship fund that was trickling down. It was going to be depleted from a student from the 80s that had been set up. And so we thought, well, we need to do something with this so some longevity happens, so we're not giving away all this money and then it just doesn't exist. So we decided we wanted to do a commission. And I had several friends who said, there's this up and coming guy who's like going to be the new hot thing for band. You need to get him now and talk to him now. It's John Mackey. And I was like, Mackey, how do you say that? Who is this guy? And so I had some friends who knew him personally. And so they introduced me to him at Midwest in the Hilton bar at about 11 o'clock at night one night. Perfect time if you're going to corral somebody into a commission they're not sure they want to do, I highly recommend that time and place, because they're just loose enough from the festivities that they might agree to it for, a decent amount of money, but nothing historical, let's just say. And so we got introduced and I told him I want a grade 3. We're very interested, yada, yada, yada. He's like, yeah, sounds great. I've never done that before. Follow up with me. And then when I followed up with him, he was quite shocked because he couldn't remember if that had actually happened. Was I serious? Did he dream it? Did he overhear it? And I was like, yes, in fact, it's real. It's me. So we worked with him for almost 2 years and he had never done a grade 3. And our point and our purpose on our commissions, and we've done several now, is we want to bring composers who don't normally compose for young band or for smaller band programs into our realm, into make it something that they have a reason to do it, and to expose our kids and smaller high school bands to real art music, what we consider artistic band music. Not necessarily, and I buy a lot of educational band music and a giant consumer of educational band music, but we thought to really make an impact, we want to bring alive pieces that stand the test of time of artistic value at the grade 3 level so that kids can play John Mackey if they are at a really strong middle school, or let's say they're at a nice high school program that doesn't normally play grade 5.
Right.
That can't do Asphalt Cocktail, but they could certainly do a good job on this piece. So he came up with Sheltering Sky. And I mean, could I ask for, a better first commission project? He set the bar so high for every other project we've had with this piece. And we're so proud of it and so proud of him. And he and I actually converse still about it and how proud he is of that piece and how it's grown. And it was his first grade 3. And it's his first experience with writing something like that and how successful it's been for him. And it's just something that, we're just so proud that we connected with the right person, had the funds, had the wherewithal and the group to kind of do this and get it going. So that kicked it off. And what we do is we have 5 middle schools in our district, and we each kick in each year, and then we pool the money, and then every other year do a commission. And so then we had Donald Grantham, because that's what you think of when you think, hey, middle school band, pieces. Let's get Donald Grantham. So we called him. And he was so nice and so agreeable. And he came out and worked with our goofy middle school kids and spent the weekend with us. And we took him out for pizza and drank a pitcher of beer with him. And he was just so nice. And it was so fun to see somebody who would normally be somewhat intimidating to us as a composer of artistic music to just hang out with us and be so nice to our kids. It's so generous to us. And he wrote Soleil Sombra for us, and I don't know if a middle school band has ever played it again because it's pretty difficult, but it is on the hit list of colleges to do down in Texas. It's pretty popular down there. And it's in the Teaching Music Through Band collection. Sheltering Sky made that, so did Soleil Sombra. And then we did Scott McAllister, because we really liked his work, and he did a piece called Atmospheres, which was for cell phones and wind ensemble. And I'm not sure he published it, but it was pretty interesting and pretty cool. And then last year, I reached out to Julie Giroux and asked her, is there any chance you'd be interested? And she said, I happen to have a spot open. Yeah, I'll do it. I couldn't believe it. And I mean, what a joy to know her and work with her. She is, such a personality and such a down-to-earth, funny, genuine person. And she did our Castaways, which is about shelter animals. And that's one of her biggest passions is her pets, her dogs. And she's thrilled with how it turned out because it's getting a lot of play. And she's donating everything she makes to shelters. So that's been awesome. And she said so many people have told her that they do theme concerts where people are allowed to bring their pets, and they'll do like a donation drive for the local shelter, and then kind of have that piece as sort of the center of things, and then go from there. And our own pets of the directors of the 5 middle schools, are our own shelter animals that we rescued, are featured in the front cover of that program. So it's really kind of like near and dear to all of us. And that's a piece that the kids really can get attached to and excited about. And then our next one actually is going to be in another year, and it's David, I don't know, is it Biedenbender or Biedenbender?
Biedenbender, I think.
Okay, Davy B, as we're going to call him, has agreed to do our next one. And so, I mean, he's another up-and-coming guy who I think's really doing some interesting things and hasn't written at that level a lot and was all in. So we have him. And then off on my own, I've done some other things like this electronic music and band consortium I'm a part of. I did rock sing with Randall Standridge last year. I was part of the commission with the piece is so hard. I had to pass it on to my high school because I can't do it. It'll come to me, or if somebody looks at the website. So obviously we have a lot of projects going on right now. So where I actually lose Dana Wilson. We did a part of one of his projects, and that was supposed to be a grade 3 as well, but it's a little over our heads. We might have to wait on that one. So I did give our premiere rights over to our high school. I said, I've got the premiere rights on if you want to do this piece, because I'm not sure I have the stomach, the nerves of steel to do this. But that's a really interesting piece that he did. But it's just, there's so much good educational music coming out. And I'm a fan of all the big publishers, and I buy a lot of music and I listen to a lot of their music. But it's just kind of nice, too, to do something off the beaten path of composers that maybe aren't working for those big publishers, and the composers that are doing their own thing and aren't writing for younger kids. So the long story longer, that's how we got into it.
So this might be a putting you on the spot kind of question, but I'm a composer. I love music too. And so especially with the job I'm in now, I'm teaching a lot of beginners. Do you have maybe a couple pieces at the grade 1, 2, and 3 levels that you kind of like really look to as like sort of like your standards or things that you want to try to do?
Oh yeah. At the grade 1 level with our beginners, I've gone back and forth and gone away from it, but I always go back to what was originally called the Queenwood set. The John Edmondson and McGinty set. And Jose has bought those, from them. And it's the red books. They come in sets where you can buy a book and it's got like 12 pieces in it. And they've got maybe 5 sets of those. They are genius because all the fundamental skills that kids need at the end of the first year are addressed in those. They don't overdo it with the technique, but there's enough technique that they'll develop. They really know how to write for the instrument so that kids are in the correct range for their first year, and yet the pieces work. They work beautifully musically, stylistically. And if you buy those collections, there's like 3 marches in each of them. There's like 3 folk tunes. There's a couple silly tunes, like flute loops or, whatever. And then there's a couple of more overture-esque type pieces in there. And no matter how many times I do it, and think, I'm going to throw something fresh in there this year and do some, just find my own grade 1s off the charts off here. I come back to those, and it makes the band sound mature. It makes them sound like a grown-up traditional band. Everybody has parts to play. The scoring's beautiful. So I am a big, and have been for 26 years. I mean, one of the questions I got asked when I took this job is this very same question. What would you program for your beginners? And I said, well, Anne McGinty rules. And I didn't know at the time that Margene Pappas and Ann McGinty were good friends. I did not know this. So she, of course, loved that answer. And that year we went to Midwest and we made McGinty Rules t-shirts, and we wore them and we gave them to Ann too. And she was thrilled, of course, who wouldn't be? So, as much as I keep thinking, how many times can I hear these pieces in one lifetime? I return to them because they have so much good material in there that I just feel like, if you just need a start, if somebody's out there and they have beginners, they need a place to start, that investment is so valuable.
My fifth graders just did Anasazi last night.
It's right. It's so beautiful. It's so nice. It's so classy. And it can teach them so much. I mean, the Red Balloon can be played by any grade level band. I did the Rainbow Bridge is in like the beginning level book, but I've done it with my 8th graders because there's so much there. And, the little marches they have just teach style so well with the space, and all the articulations are done correctly and the bass lines are done appropriately. So it's just very tasteful and very well constructed. Grade 2, he's the hot conductor. These guys are like super hot right now, but I always find a couple of Standridge things that I like. His lyrical stuff is what I tend to go toward.
He's known for his fast stuff.
I know he is, but his lyrical writing is some of the most beautiful. His little lullaby, it's called. I mean, it makes my heart ache every time I hear it. And Companion of My Voice is a piece that we did of his a few years ago, and it just is a heartbreaker. He has just some really stunningly mature lyrical things that he's done. The other person that has been hot forever, and I've just started doing a couple of his things, is Balm Edges. I just started playing his stuff a couple years ago. So now I program him, throw him in, once a cycle with stuff. But I mean, Robert Sheldon's grade 2s are classic. I mean, amazing. And then for grade 3, I love the Wagner and the Longfield settings of the old band classics. I do a lot of their, I guess, editions. They're not really arrangements because they're like almost new editions of things that are maybe grade 4s that they've almost rescored. Like there's, and there might even be a Swearingen, but the Sea Songs that's out. There's, they've just reset some things in better ranges for kids that are just so good. I think who else. We're doing the Boysen Symphony, number 4 right now. That's spectacular. If somebody has a good grade 3 band, I mean, that's a real symphony. It's constructed so beautifully, and the thematic use and recurrence is just, it's so symphonic, form is just so strong. That's so good for teaching kids that. But I think, I can't say really even go to, those are some people that I know, like if I listen to, I'll find something I like by them, but I'm just as excited if I find like something like Melanie Donahue's one. She has a piece called Remember. I don't recall ever coming, I'm not sure I've programmed anything else by her ever, but I go back to that piece over and over again. Or, you find one gem here or there and you like tuck it away and think, oh, put that on my list of things that I love. And I've got dozens of the gems where 1 or 2 offs from a composer that are really special. And then every program I try to program something that's a new purchase, something that's a new release.
Oh, thank you for that as a composer.
Well, I want to encourage, it's a tough way for these companies and composers to make money. So I always try to buy a lot of new music and do about half and half of new and old, just because I want more new music to be written. There's a lot of good ideas out there. I want them out there. I want them to be supported.
Yeah. Well, I have to do a little housekeeping here. So you mentioned a bunch of names. I just want to, because I want to be self-referential. And one of my great middle school band director guests was Jenny Stogner-Neff. Mm-hmm. Who was episode 52. And at Midwest, her and I had a running joke about know your number, what episode you are.
Oh, okay.
And so Andrew Boysen was episode 19.
Oh, wow.
Ann McGinty was episode 76. Bob Sheldon, episode 94, and Randall Standridge, episode 92.
And I just listened to the Standridge one in the car the other day, and I really enjoyed his stories about his little program he had and growing them up. His is a great story. And just, I mean, because now he's kind of, he's band famous now.
Yeah, right.
But hearing him talk about going through the same things as everybody else in his little band and growing them up, and it gives you hope, that everyone's going through that. We're all going through the same thing. And even though somebody might be a name, we've all experienced the same, it's such a similar experience living in the band world of all of us. Mm-hmm. So what's my number?
You're going to be 102.
102. That's going to be my new lottery number. So if I hit, everyone hears it here, Mark Connor is getting a cut of my Mega Millions if I hit, because with that, I will use that number combination now to play.
Let me pull back the curtain for the listeners. It's February 22nd. I'm currently editing episode 100. That's John Mackey. This will be Monday.
Oh, excellent.
And episode 101, the week after, will be Bruce Pearson.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. And then you.
So, yeah, listen to all these people I've been name dropping all night. Well, in my next blog post, I'll have to discuss this, and I will have to drop your name to. You'll have to be my new composer I explore.
Well, thank you. As Caitlin Beauvais said in a Facebook post, hashtag band famous.
Well, and my daughter says all the time, because my husband's a jazz musician, and he has several CDs out and such. And one of her friends one time when she was probably in second or third grade said, "Is your dad famous?" She said, "No, just jazz famous." And she actually said, "I've thought about it." She said, "I thought about being a band director and I thought about being a performer, but I think I'd rather be pop famous because it seems like there's a lot more money."
Yes. Band famous means there's like 20,000 people. Pop famous means there's like 20 million people.
Exactly. And at 1 penny per 10,000 drops on Spotify, let's go pop. So
right. I'm down with that.
Fantastic.
Rachel, we've been going for a while. We haven't gotten to the final questions yet. We should probably do that.
My goodness. Okay, what do you got?
Okay, I asked these questions of all my guests, and the first is, where do you draw the line between healthy and unhealthy competition in music?
I think healthy competition is when it's with yourself and you can do better and you're going to push to that next level. I'm extremely competitive with myself. It does drive me a little nuts if I see somebody doing something well because I'm mad I haven't incorporated that already. And I do fire my kids up a little bit because we do like these in-house festivals where it's all our bands. And I always say to them, you want to go there and feel like you can walk in and out with your head held high, that you represented, that any band parent from any other school is going to hear us and be like, dang, that was awesome. Even if it's our competition or whoever's perceived as our competition, or, numbers are what they are. We can't control that, but we can control the quality of our own performance. And we want to have people think they enjoyed our performance. We're proud to hear our performance, even if they're not our mom and dad, even if it's a mom and dad from another school or, so we do talk to the kids about, you want to go out and represent. And I know for my own self, I can get a little nutty, chasing the other band or chasing what somebody else is doing. And I actually resolved this year not to be a chaser anymore, if that makes any sense. Not to think, oh, look what they're doing. I need to be doing, look more to their methodology rather than events or results. And even when I was in the most competitive of all competitive things, drum corps, it was always a matter of inward competition. We can't control the score, but we can definitely control our quality. So if somebody's trying to chase down another group or a result, that's like the road to doom, obviously. But I'm a big fan of, making yourself one step better every single day, obviously.
Yeah, I know. I'm so torn on it because personally, yeah, competition. And maybe it's a negative, but I've always used it as a positive. I don't like to feel like I'm not good enough.
Sure.
And that's always driven me. Or if I get upset about something, like if I get a little angry, I'm a good anger practicer. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a kind of an ongoing joke in my band office that there's this event in Illinois that's a big deal, and anybody listening will know what it is. And my band is not selected more often than it is selected for this event. And it's it's like a state thing. And we don't really fit the typecast. Whoever the judges are have a certain very high quality band that they like. But our band, I have an 8th grade band of 120 kids. We sound different than other bands. It's like the old, Bijan giant symphonic band, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
It's a different sound. So it doesn't appeal to everybody. So nothing has fired me up more in the last several years than the rejection of that. And I make a joke of it because people are like, why do you keep applying? Because it's gotten me to do more things with myself. It's how I ended up doing a clinic at Midwest and at IMEA and putting together, we have a new festival we've started this year and we're affiliated with Music for All. It's the first Music for All middle school regional affiliate festival. It's called the Prairie State Middle School Festival. It's in April. And it's in a direct reaction to a lot of middle schools needing a place to play because they're not receiving a spot in this other particular festival. And, nothing has motivated me more than just the sheer of the rejection. And I laugh and I joke about it because it just kicks my own butt. So I keep doing it because for the right reasons, it motivates me to be successful in other ways if I feel perceive that I've been unsuccessful in this one area. So I get what you mean. I definitely get what you mean.
All right, Rachel, how do you find work-life balance in your career as a music educator?
I am probably pretty out of balance, more than most people would be comfortable with, because there's a lot of elements of my job that I enjoy almost at a hobby level, like listening to music, going and seeing other groups, going to concerts at the high school or neighboring high schools. At night when we come home and we're all sitting around watching TV, lots of times my husband and I will each be on our laptops while we watch the shows we've taped all weekend. And I enjoy spending that time kind of puttering and doing my busy work, my computer work, my putting together lesson plans or putting together marketing things for the band program or my next newsletter or whatever it may be, or putting one earbud in and listening to music while we watch sitcoms and, our shows for the week. So I do, though, have time where I need to do nothing band related, and it usually involves a long nap, at least one afternoon a weekend. And the other thing I do with my daughter, and my son did it with me too, is we do horses as a hobby pretty intensely. We've owned horses in the past and we've shown a lot. And in fact, I worked for one of the horse show publications for several years where I did photographs and wrote articles about the shows as something just completely different. And it's so funny because the horse people would be like, "You're a band director?" And my kids at school would be like, "You own a horse?" And it really, just having interest in that, my husband and my daughter and I, my son's at college, so us at home now are huge pop culture junkies. I mean, we just got a puppy and we named her Marvel. So, we live and die by the Marvel universe, cinematic universe. They have a standing order at the comic book store every month where they go and get their materials. And, we have a lot of things that we love that entertain us in pop culture and news that we enjoy away from band. But I love it enough that just the pure band element of it, I enjoy working on and thinking about and listening to when I'm away from school. Now, away from school, I don't do a lot of my parent communications or the things that are a little tougher at times. I do that at school. I leave that at school. But the fun parts of it, I enjoy doing at home as well. And just to kind of branch off, I think it's one of the most important things I've done is to have a hobby that I'm okay at, but not great at, because it has helped me remember what it feels like to struggle or to be a beginner. And I also run, which is horrifying, but I have to do it to just move at this point in my life and, give myself something to do to get off the couch. And I'm doing the Chicago Marathon this year, and I've done many half marathons, and it's a struggle always. The training's brutal. It's horrible. And I always think to myself, as I'm struggling running, like maybe I haven't trained as much this particular week or I'm hurting, I think, would it be helpful for me now if I had a coach that was mad at me because I haven't practiced enough and like gave me a guilt trip? I know I haven't practiced enough, or was upset with me or frustrated with me because I'm not running fast enough, or my technique's not good, or I have a sore ankle, or I feel lazy. And I always think, how can I transfer that to my kids? Because it's not a matter of wanting to be bad, but just sometimes you're just not able to do more than what you're doing at that moment. And being a beginner and being not a very good runner has helped me understand what it's like to struggle, but still want to be good at something that I probably will never be good at. And that, I think, has helped me stay. I still get crazy, and still am very demanding in my rehearsals, but it's helped me kind of check that and keep the beginner perspective, the struggler perspective. And it's been good for me to have some things I'm not very good at. And it keeps me super humble, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like me teaching fourth graders. Keeps me humble
every day. And whatever seems a little scary is the next thing we have to do, because that's your next challenge. So if it's a little intimidating or freaky to have to go do beginners, that's the perfect thing for you. Or like, that's why I signed up for Chicago, because I've never done a full marathon and it was petrifying to me. And I thought, well, then that's my next goal. That's what I have to.
So if you could jump in a time machine and travel back to your high school graduation, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Shut up. I'd give my 5 minute ago self that advice, probably. Talk less and enjoy the process more. I was always very urgent about achievement and growth and perfection and getting it and being the best and pushing that. I really, I hurried my time away when I should have been really just be in the moment, enjoy it. And now I look back and I think, all these great things I experienced that you don't realize you're never going to experience again necessarily. So when I went to grad school, I kind of had a little taste of that, even though I was only a few years out. So I really understood, enjoy this, because there's never going to be another time in your life when you only have to worry about yourself.
I know. I told my college students that all the time.
I mean, it's all about you. So just relax, enjoy it. And you know what? If it takes 6 years to get out of school, so what? And I know the cost and things stress kids out and they got to get through and they want this. But, obviously I would still want to do as well as I did, but I don't think I needed to have the uncomfortable intensity I put on myself, the pressure I put on myself, because it worked out. It would have worked out if I was a little calmer too, I think, at the time. And I didn't really start laughing at myself or like having a really goofy sense of humor until probably in my 30s even. I was pretty uptight about everything needing to be perfect. And that was a lot of wasted time in general, not just in school, and, Joan Rivers has this quote. And I was always very saddened by when she died, because it seemed like it was just not her time. And I still feel bad about that because she's such a funny person, but she has this quote that I look at all the time. She's like, laugh because it's all funny. It's all funny. Everything, I take what I do very seriously, but I cannot take myself dead seriously anymore because it's too exhausting and it's too ridiculous. So
if you had a choice, anything, what would be the final piece of music you'd conduct?
Oh, no, I can't.
Well, there's got to be one at the end.
I know, and that's why I'm never going to retire. I've already got my second gig, my gig after I retire plan. I'm going to go I want to be somebody's third assistant down in Texas when I retire. So that's how I'm going to get on the stage at Midwest. I'm going to be the one that they let do the grade one,
Yeah.
the third guy who does whatever, like sousaphone sectionals for somebody.
All my Texas directors, are you listening?
Yeah, I'm looking for a job in 8 years. I will do anything. I'll file your music if you need me to. I haven't thought that far. I don't know. Maybe it hasn't been written yet. I don't know, because it's going to have to be something that's obtainable in the groups I actually have. It's not going to be Lincolnshire Posy, or it's not going to be something that isn't doable. And I don't know if even the piece exists yet. I'll probably put together like the ultimate last concert, but somebody was talking about like, oh, you only have 8 years left. I said, yeah, you know what that means? 8 times 4 times 4 or 5. That's how many 8th grade programs I have left I get to program. And they're like, what? I'm like, there's a lot more music I want to do besides what I have left in time. Because I think I only have 8 years and there's still new music being written. I'm never going to get it all in.
Right.
So I don't know if I'll ever do this is my ultimate last piece kind of thing. Because my hope is when I retire that I'll teach in another capacity or at another state or do something. So I'll be up there in my walker and my cane and my dentures yelling at some kid some saxophone player that they're still mixing up the F natural and the F sharp until the end. So that might be how it goes down. There'll probably be some grade 1 piece out of a workbook. That will be my last piece. And then she went away peacefully. She collapsed on the podium and they rolled her body out of the way and finished rehearsal.
It'll be like Sawmill Creek or something.
Something like that, or something in the back of Traditional Excellence or something like that. One of their Christmas collection concerts or something like that. So
yeah, I just had just last episode, Bruce Pearson and I joked about Sawmill Creek, or I talked to him about that piece.
He's probably made $1 off that thing.
When I came to the school, the 5th graders, they all wanted to play Sawmill Creek because they played it last spring in their concert.
Of course they want to play it. I have kids in high school who want to play Pandora by Standridge because they played it in 7th grade and they think it's the greatest piece of music they've ever experienced in their lives. And I have parents whose kids are seniors who are like, oh, if I could just hear that piece one more time. I'm like, well, you can just get online, and it's, but it cracks me up because what gives a child and it's a cool, awesome grade 2 piece. It's got all these cool elements to it, but I mean, they get their hearts set. Well, Declaration Overture. When I was in 8th grade, we played that, and for me, that was the piece for years and years and years because it had a high F in the French horn part, and I nailed it every time and thought I was cool. So that to me was the piece. So maybe that will be the last one I play.
And so we were supposed to talk about your website, The Band Room. And so this is usually where I ask if there's anything you'd like to share or promote. So maybe you can take a minute to talk about The Band Room.
The Band Room is the website for it is actually The Band Room's page, all one word, because anything even remotely close to the band room has already been taken, and most of it's like not suitable for educational use, for whatever reason. So it's the band room's page is the actual website. But if you type in the band room, it usually will pop up. And I've got our curriculum up there, articles, handouts from our kids, all my presentation handouts, copies. And my whole thing is I've collected everything I use over the last 30 years from people who are far wiser and more experienced than I have been, and just kind of put together what is the right combination for me and my kids at different times. So if anybody wants to use any of that material or go to our band's website, Traughber Band, if you Google that, it pops right up. Anything we have is out there for the band universe to use in whatever capacity helps them in any way to make their job a little easier, or to help them communicate with parents or administration or kids a little better, or whatever tools their kids we kind of just share what's worked for us. And if somebody likes something, please take it and then adapt it to however you need to use it, because I kind of feel like we're all in this together, and it can be tough, and it can be very isolated if you're the only band or music teacher in your building or even your district. So it's a sharing site, and it's all there for people to use and adapt however they see fit. Or if you hate all of it, that's great too. So it's not going to be for everybody, but if you see something you like, please feel free or share with me or bounce ideas off of me, because all of those things have evolved over time. Nothing I use is the same as it was when I started using it. Everything has changed over time, obviously.
Rachel, how can people get in touch with you?
I'm all over Facebook. If you want to get on Facebook, I try to put some funny posts up there. So friend me on Facebook, Rachel Maxwell, or my school email is rmaxwell@sd308.org. Or again, you can look me up through Traughber Band, Traughber. It's a last name of a person from our community, Traughber Band. You can link to me through there, or the band room. My contact stuff's all there, and if anybody ever, has a question or idea, or can you listen to I will make as much time as I have available to help anyone out, because I just feel like we owe it to each other to make it as comfortable and as successful as possible for each other's kids and each other, so we have a good experience with this.
Rachel, thank you so much for the generosity of your time. This was a great interview. Thank
you for having me. It was kind of a thrill. I feel, I was fangirling out when you reached out. So thank you.
Hashtag band famous.
You know what? I'm making a booth at Midwest this year. I'm going to have a chair massage lady going, and I'm going to sell those T-shirts and a couch where people can just sit. And it's going to be the best booth at Midwest.
You should sell the T-shirts and those electronic massagers. Is that what you mean? The ones they try to.
No, I'm going to let people have chair massages. Hang out.
I thought you were going to hawk those, those.
No, it's going to be a real thing. I've had this dream for years, like a couch lounge area. You can come get a foot massage if you want, and you buy my band famous T-shirt now that we got that product out there in the world. So, all right. Well, if I really go through it we'll talk with some kind of marketing split for you.
Rachel, thanks so much.
All right. You're very welcome.